I went to the kitchen for wine. That's when I heard them. Through the study door, my mother's voice. New Year's Eve is perfect. 200 witnesses when we announce Harper gets nothing. Make sure the cameras are rolling when she realizes her trust is empty. They expected tears, panic, maybe even begging. Instead, I smiled, because I had 72 hours and someone who'd beaten this exact game before. She called it the panic protocol. 3 phases to force fraudulent families to confess their own crimes. Phase 1, plant the leak. Phase 2, document their panic. Phase 3, let them destroy themselves in front of witnesses. $28 million. That's what my grandfather left me, currently hidden in offshore accounts they controlled. Over those 72 hours, we used 5 digital tools: timestamp cameras, encrypted email backups, financial spreadsheets, strategic social media leaks, and SEC whistleblower forms. Everything documented, everything legal, everything designed to make them panic so badly they'd confess before I ever said a word. This is the story of how I used my family's worst instincts against them, how destroying them felt like destroying myself, and why I'd do it again. Now let me take you back to how we got here. I was 8 when I realized I was invisible. My brother Ryan's birthday party. 100 people, backyard pool, dessert table that cost more than most weddings. I'd just won a regional pottery award. 3rd place, Arizona Youth Division. I brought the certificate to show Mom. "That's nice, honey." She didn't even look at it, just patted my head and turned back to the dessert coordinator. Ryan got a standing ovation for a B+ on his math quiz. Dad lifted him onto his shoulders. Mom cried happy tears. The photographer took 17 photos. Nobody took a picture of my pottery certificate. I taped it to my bedroom wall. It stayed there for 6 years. When I moved out, I found it in the trash. That's when I understood. Ryan wasn't just the favorite. I was the placeholder, the backup, the one they kept around in case he failed. But he never would, so I never mattered. I was 16 when they killed my college acceptance. University of Arizona art program, full scholarship, 4 years of freedom, 4 years of being someone who wasn't just Ryan's shadow. I showed them the letter at dinner. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. That look. The one that meant they'd already decided. Dad crushed the letter in his fist. Starving artists don't build dynasties. It's a full scholarship. It won't cost you anything. It'll cost you everything. 4 years wasted on pottery while Ryan builds the business. You'll come back with a useless degree and no connections. Is that what you want? To be irrelevant? I already was irrelevant. But I didn't say that. I went to community college instead. Studied accounting because it was practical. Because maybe if I proved I could think like them, speak their language, understand their world, they'd finally see me. They didn't. I was 22 when they pulled me into the family real estate firm. Not invited. Pulled. Dad called it an opportunity. Mom called it a blessing. Ryan called it inevitable. I started as entry-level. Administrative work, filing, coffee runs. The degree didn't matter. I was still the backup. In meetings, I'd suggest ideas, market expansions, client retention strategies. Dad would nod, say, "We'll think about it," and move on. 10 minutes later, Ryan would say the same thing, word for word sometimes. Dad would lean forward, eyes bright, and say, "That's brilliant, son. Let's implement that next quarter." It happened 12 times before I stopped counting. By year 3, I stopped contributing. Just smiled, signed where they told me, and watched Ryan climb the ladder I'd built rungs for. But here's what they didn't know. Grandpa James saw everything. He died when I was 25. Heart attack in his workshop, surrounded by half-finished furniture and sketches for my pottery studio he promised to fund. The one thing that had made me feel seen. 3 days after his funeral, the lawyer read the will. $28 million in a trust. For Harper's future freedom. Full control at age 30. I was 28 now. 18 months away. My parents became trustees until then. Temporary guardians of my inheritance. They assured everyone it was standard. Responsible. They'd manage the money until I was mature enough. I believed them. That was my first mistake. 6 months after Grandpa died, I asked to see the trust documents. Just wanted to understand the structure. Dad said the lawyer had them. The lawyer said Dad had them. I asked again 3 months later. Same runaround. That's when I met Sarah. She came into our office for a consultation about selling her deceased mother's property. 78 years old, sharp as broken glass. And she looked at me like she knew something. After the meeting, she waited in the parking lot. Your father tried to hide papers when I mentioned trust amendments, she said. I've seen that move before. I didn't know what to say. 20 years ago, Sarah continued, my siblings did the same thing. Convinced my mother to make them trustees of my inheritance. By the time I got control, 70% was gone. Offshore accounts, shell corporations. I spent 8 years getting it back. She handed me her card. If you ever need a second set of eyes on financial documents, I'm a CPA, also a survivor. I kept that card for 2 years, until Thanksgiving dinner. I went to get wine from the kitchen, turned the corner toward the study, heard voices. Mom's voice came through the door like a knife. New Year's Eve is perfect. We announce it at midnight. 200 witnesses. Harper gets nothing because the trust is empty. We'll have already moved the last accounts by then. Dad's voice, lower. She'll make a scene. Let her. We'll look like the victims. Poor parents with an ungrateful daughter who can't accept that Grandpa's investments failed. Ryan laughed. Failed meaning Cayman accounts we control? She won't find them, Mom said. Even if she tries, we've got 6 lawyers. By the time she figures out how to fight back, statute of limitations will protect us. I stood there, wine bottle cold in my hand, heart hammering. They were planning to publicly disinherit me at their New Year's Eve gala, in front of everyone who'd ever dismissed me, doubted me, made me feel small, and they were going to lie about it. The evidence was already gone, hidden in accounts I'd never trace. Protected by legal teams I couldn't afford to fight. I could cry, confront them, beg for the truth. Or I could call Sarah. I pulled out my phone. 3 words. I need help. She answered on the first ring. Tell me everything. We met at a Denny's 40 minutes later. 2 in the morning. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the coffee cup. The fluorescent lights made everything feel surreal, like I'd stepped outside my life and was watching it happen to someone else. Sarah listened, didn't interrupt, didn't look shocked. Just wrote notes in a leather-bound journal that looked like it had seen battles before. When I finished, she said, They're going to do this whether you fight or not. Question is, do you want to go down quiet or do you want to make them confess? Confess? They have lawyers. They've hidden everything. I have nothing. You have 72 hours, Sarah said. And you have me. I've done this before. There's a protocol. I developed it after my own family tried this. Took me 8 years to win. But I won. And I learned how to compress those 8 years into 72 hours. She pulled out a notebook, started writing. Her handwriting was precise, architectural. It's called the panic protocol. 3 phases. We don't fight them on their ground. We don't try to find the money they've hidden. That's their game. They're better at it than you. They've had 2 years to move things, hide things, build legal walls around it all. So what do? We make them so scared of what's coming that they expose themselves trying to cover it up. Fraudulent people have a tell. When they think they're about to get caught, they panic. They make mistakes. They document their own crimes trying to prevent investigation. We just have to trigger that panic. She drew 3 circles on the napkin. Phase 1. Plant the leak. We make them think someone's already investigating, not us. Someone with authority. SEC, IRS, State Attorney General. We don't actually contact these agencies yet. We just make them believe someone has. A rumor, a whisper. Something that reaches their ears and makes them think the walls are closing in. How? Social media. Anonymous legal advice posts. Hypothetical questions that match their situation too closely to be coincidence. They monitor everything, trust me. They're paranoid because they're guilty. One post, properly worded, properly placed, and they'll hear about it within 24 hours. She drew arrows between the circles. Phase 2. Document their panic. The moment they think they're being investigated, they start scrambling, moving money, calling lawyers, having conversations they think are private, sending emails, making threats, offering explanations that contradict each other. Every action they take becomes evidence. We just have to record it all. Timestamp everything. Back up everything. Build a timeline that shows consciousness of guilt. She paused, looked at me. That's what lawyers call consciousness of guilt. When someone acts like they're already caught, it proves they knew they were doing something wrong in the first place. And phase 3? Phase 3 is where they destroy themselves. We let them confess in public, thinking they're getting ahead of the investigation, controlling the narrative. What they don't realize is that their public confession becomes the smoking gun. They think they're explaining away losses. What they're actually doing is admitting to fraud in front of 200 witnesses. Once they do that, every authority I mention becomes interested. Because now it's not a rumor, it's a recorded admission. I stared at her. That's insane. It's strategic, and it works. I've helped 3 other people do this since my own case. All 3 got their money back. All 3 avoided years of litigation because the fraudulent parties confessed before formal charges were ever filed. They thought they were being smart. They were being documented. She leaned back. But we need 72 hours and 5 tools. 5 specific things you'll use to build the case they don't even know you're building. Are you in? I thought about that pottery certificate, about the college letter Dad destroyed, about 28 years of being the backup, the invisible one, the daughter who didn't matter enough to steal from carefully. I'm in. Sarah opened her laptop. First tool, timestamp camera. Download it now. I pulled out my phone, found the app. What is this? Every photo you take gets an embedded timestamp, GPS coordinates, and weather data. Can't be faked, can't be altered. Courts love it. You're going to photograph everything, every document you can access, every text message, every email. Build a timeline they can't dispute. I opened the app. The camera interface appeared, but different. Bottom of the screen showed real-time data, date, time, GPS coordinates, weather, elevation. Take a photo of this napkin. Sarah said. I did. The image saved with a data bar burned into the bottom. Nov 28, 2024, 2:47 a.m. Denny's, Scottsdale, AZ, 4DC, Dikfas, 1100 FT elevation. That data is embedded in the file metadata, Sarah explained. Can't be removed without destroying the image. Courts accept it as proof of when and where something was photographed. Your family can't claim you fabricated documents later if the timestamps show you photographed them the same day they were created. We spent the next hour going through my email. Every message from the lawyer about the trust. Every text from Dad saying he'd send documents later. Every promise to let me see the accounts that never materialized. Screenshot, timestamp. Save to encrypted cloud. Second tool, Sarah said. Proton Mail, encrypted email service. Create an account. Forward everything to it. They might delete your regular email access once they realize you're onto them. This is your backup. I set it up while she watched. Forwarded 2 years of correspondence. Every message that mentioned the trust, the accounts, Grandpa's estate. How does this help? Pattern of deception. You asked for documentation 37 times in 2 years. They refused or deflected every time. That's not normal trustee behavior, that's concealment. A jury sees this. They'll understand you weren't just suspicious. You were systematically blocked. Third tool, Excel spreadsheet. But not just any spreadsheet. Sarah created a template. Forensic timeline. Every interaction with your parents about the trust. Date, time, what was said, what was promised, what was delivered. Include the timestamps from your photos. Include the forwarded emails. Include everything. We worked until sunrise. By the time we finished, I had 43 documented instances of them refusing to provide information I had a legal right to see. Fourth tool, Sarah said. This is where it gets interesting. Social media. I don't understand. Phase 1 of the protocol. We need to plant the leak. Make them think the SEC is already investigating. But we can't say it directly. We need someone else to say it. She pulled up her phone. Reddit. R. Legal advice. Throwaway account created 60 seconds ago. The post read, hypothetical. If trustees of a $28 million family trust in Arizona refuse to provide account statements for 24+ months, and beneficiary suspects undisclosed offshore transfers to Canadian banks, which agency investigates? SEC? IRS? State AG? Why Canadian banks? I asked. Because you saw Royal Bank of Canada on that one statement they showed you 2 years ago. Remember? You told me about it. They'll recognize that detail. Makes it feel like someone who knows specifics is asking. Someone who might be a forensic accountant or a federal investigator. But I'm not either of those. They don't know that. Paranoid people see threats everywhere. This post will spread through their social circle by tomorrow. Someone will screenshot it, send it to your dad. Did you see this? Sounds like your situation. And he'll panic. The post went live. Within 30 minutes, 12 responses. Half said SEC, quarter said IRS. Rest said, hire a lawyer immediately. Now we wait, Sarah said. Your family monitors everything. They probably have Google alerts on their names, the company, the trust. Someone in their circle will see this post. Or someone who knows someone. By tonight, the rumor will reach them. They'll know it's me. They'll suspect. But they can't prove it. And here's the beauty. Guilty people don't wait for proof. They panic. They start moving things, calling lawyers, having conversations they think are private. And that's when we document everything. She was right. By that night, I got a text from Ryan. Why are you asking weird questions on Reddit about trusts? I didn't respond. I forwarded the screenshot to Sarah. She called immediately. Perfect. Ryan monitoring your digital footprint means they're already paranoid. His text is reactive, defensive. He's fishing to see if you posted it. Don't confirm, don't deny. Silence makes them more nervous. 20 minutes later, Mom called. We need to talk about your expectations regarding Grandpa's estate. I let it go to voicemail. Saved the message. Timestamp camera screenshot of the missed call. Sarah texted, unsolicited contact after 2 years of stonewalling. That's consciousness of guilt. They're trying to control the narrative before an investigation they only think exists. Document everything. Dad sent an email at 11 p.m. Subject line, trust distribution timeline. Harper, we've been meaning to update you. The trust has experienced some investment losses. We're working with advisors to rebuild the portfolio. We'll have a full accounting ready by your 30th birthday. First time in 2 years they'd volunteered information. I forwarded it to Proton Mail. Added it to the spreadsheet. Timestamp photo of my screen. Sarah called at midnight. Read me the email. I did. That's beautiful, she said. They're terrified. Your dad's email is textbook panic response. Unsolicited explanation after 2 years of silence. He's trying to establish a paper trail that makes the losses look legitimate before anyone asks questions. But he just documented that he knew you were owed information and withheld it. Save everything. The next day was Friday. 70 hours until the party. I went to work like normal. Smiled at Dad in the hallway. He looked stressed. Tie loosened. Jacket off. He'd been on the phone all morning. I'd heard his voice through the office door. Sharp. Defensive. Good. Mom called at 10. We've decided to accelerate the trust distribution conversation. Can you meet us tonight? I have plans. Cancel them. This is important. We need to clear the air before tomorrow night's party. We don't want any misunderstandings. Translation. We need to control you before you ruin our announcement. I texted Sarah. They want to meet tonight. 7 p.m. Her response. Perfect. That's phase 2 in action. They're scrambling. 5th tool time. At 6:30, I activated the 5th tool. Voice recording app. I called Sarah first. Legal question, I said. Arizona recording laws? One party consent state. As long as you're a part of the conversation, you can record it without telling them. But here's what matters. You're not recording to entrap them. You're recording to protect yourself. They're trustees. You're the beneficiary. You have a right to document conversations about your own trust. Okay. Turn it on before you walk in. Keep your phone in your jacket pocket. Let them talk. Don't accuse. Just ask questions. They'll hang themselves. I walked into that conference room at 7:05, deliberately late. Let them wait. Let them wonder. My phone was in my jacket pocket, audio running, red recording indicator hidden against the fabric. They had papers spread across the table. Trust documents I'd been asking to see for 2 years. Account statements I'd been told didn't exist. Bank letters. Investment summaries. Finally. We want to be transparent, Dad said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Practiced. Show you everything. Clear up any confusion. I sat down. Studied the statements. Every account showed losses. Market downturns, recession impacts, bad timing on international investments. The 28 million was now 18. 10 million gone in 2 years. Where did 10 million go? Market volatility, Mom said. Unfortunately, your grandfather invested heavily in emerging markets. When the global economy shifted, those investments took significant hits. We tried to preserve what we could, but some losses were unavoidable. She said it like she'd rehearsed. Maybe she had. I picked up the first statement. Royal Bank of Canada. Transaction history dating back 30 months. Looked legitimate. Professional. The kind of document that would satisfy most people. I took a photo with timestamp camera while they watched. What are you doing? Dad's voice had an edge. Documenting. For my records. You don't need to do that. We're giving you copies. Everything here is yours to keep. I know. I still want my own. Independent verification. You understand? His jaw tightened, but he nodded. I photographed every page, 15 statements, 6 accounts, all showing losses that seemed too convenient, too round, too perfectly timed to market events that I'd have to be an economist to verify. Then I saw it. Bottom of the third statement. Transfer notation in small print. Easy to miss if you weren't looking, but I was looking. 16 million to an account ending in 4739. Date, 3 months after Grandpa died. Before the supposed market losses, before the recession impacts, before any of the explanations they'd just given me. My heart kicked against my ribs. I kept my face neutral. What's account 4739? Dad's face went white, just for a second. A micro expression. Then he recovered, smiled. Casual. Operating account. We consolidated the investments for better management, economies of scale, lower fees. Can I see the statement for 4739? It's not relevant to your trust. That's the corporate account. We moved your assets through it temporarily to access institutional investor rates. Everything's been redistributed to the accounts you're looking at now. So the money went from my trust to account 4739, then back to these accounts? Essentially? Then the statement would show that. The redistribution. It would, yes. But you don't need to see the intermediary account. You're looking at the final positions right here. I'd still like to see it. Complete picture. Mom stood up, smoothed her skirt. Power move. Harper, this is why we don't usually involve beneficiaries in day-to-day management. You're getting confused by technical procedures. Trust administration is complex. Moving money between accounts for management purposes is standard practice. I'm not confused. I'm asking where $16 million went after it left my trust account. Simple question. We've explained that, Dad said. Investment vehicles, managed funds, tax-optimized structures, everything legitimate, everything designed to maximize your returns, which is our fiduciary duty as trustees. I took a photo of the transfer notation, made sure the account number was clear, made sure the date was visible, made sure the amount was readable. Stop that, Mom snapped. Her voice cracked. First real emotion. It's my trust. I have a right to document it. You're being paranoid, and frankly, insulting. We've spent 2 years managing this money, protecting it, making difficult decisions to preserve what we could in a volatile market. And you're treating us like criminals. I'm treating you like trustees who moved $16 million to an undisclosed account and won't show me where it went. Ryan had been quiet until now, sitting in the corner, watching, learning, probably, how to manage difficult family members, how to maintain control. He leaned forward. This is insulting to them, Harper. They've kept your inheritance safe, kept it growing. Well, tried to keep it growing. The market's been brutal, and you're acting like they stole from you. Did you know about account 4739? He glanced at Dad. Quick, automatic. Tell. I'm not involved in trust management. That's not what I asked. I think we're done here, Dad said. Harper, we've tried to be accommodating, but you're clearly not ready for this level of financial responsibility. I stood up. Put the papers down. Send me the statement for account 4739. I'll wait. We're not sending you anything until you apologize for this behavior, Mom said. I walked out. The recording was 43 minutes long. Every deflection, every refusal, every time they contradicted themselves about where the money went. I sent it to Sarah. She called back in 10 minutes. That's it. That's everything we need for Phase 3. They just confessed they moved $16 million to an undisclosed account and refused to document it. They handed you the case. That night, I got an email from the family lawyer. Subject: trustee removal proceedings. They were trying to remove themselves as trustees. Effective immediately, transfer all remaining assets to a third-party administrator, which would freeze everything for months, maybe years. Sarah's text came through. They're running. They know you have them. File the SEC complaint now. We need it on record before they can hide behind the third-party shield. They're going to announce at the party that the money's gone, I said when she answered. Tomorrow night, in front of everyone. Let them, because we're going to be ready. Saturday, New Year's Eve, 24 hours until midnight. Sarah and I spent the morning filing paperwork. SEC whistleblower complaint, not a lawsuit, just a tip. Suspicious financial activity by trustees of a family trust, potential offshore transfers, pattern of concealment. Attached, timeline spreadsheet, forwarded emails, timestamp photos, voice recording. We submitted it at noon. They won't investigate in time, I said. They don't have to. What matters is that we filed. That creates a record. When your parents confess tonight to 200 people that they mismanaged the trust, the SEC already has our complaint on file. Dated before their confession. That's not revenge. That's documentation. I went home. Tried to sleep. Couldn't. At 2 a.m, I sat in my car outside the pottery studio I'd always wanted to open. Dark windows, empty parking lot. The sign said, for lease. I thought about Grandpa, about the day he showed me this space. When you're ready, he'd said. When you're free. Was this freedom? Destroying my family? Turning my mother into a criminal? Making my father lose everything? They'd done it to themselves. I knew that. Intellectually, I knew that. But my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Sarah had told me, you'll doubt yourself. At 2 a.m., you'll wonder if you're the monster. That's when you need to remember. Monsters don't lose sleep over their choices. I called her. You okay? She answered, voice alert despite the hour. I don't know if I can do this. What if I'm wrong? What if the money really did get lost in the market? What if I'm destroying them over a misunderstanding? You asked for documentation 37 times. They refused 37 times. That's not a misunderstanding. That's concealment. But what if... Harper? Do you know why I helped you? No. Because 20 years ago, I sat in a car at 2 a.m. asking myself the same questions. And I almost walked away. Almost let them keep what they stole. You know what happened to my siblings after I dropped my case? What? They did it to my cousin. Exact same pattern. Took her inheritance, too. She didn't fight. She believed them when they said the money was gone. She died thinking she'd been a burden to the family. Never knew they'd stolen from her. I closed my eyes. You're not destroying them, Sarah said. You're stopping them. There's a difference. They made choices. You're just making sure those choices have consequences. I looked at the pottery studio, at the empty space where Grandpa's dream was supposed to be. Okay, I said. I'm going to the party. Good. Remember, You're not the villain in this story. You're just the only one brave enough to tell the truth. I drove to the party, 40-minute drive from my apartment to their estate in North Scottsdale. Long enough to review Sarah's final instructions. She'd texted them in bullet points. Don't confront them before the announcement. Let them commit publicly. Once they say the money's gone in front of witnesses, everything else follows. I'd replied, what if they don't announce it? They will. They've already told you they're doing it at midnight. Narcissists love public moments. They think witnesses equal protection. They don't realize witnesses equal evidence. I pulled into the estate at 10:30, early enough to seem normal, late enough to avoid small talk. The ice sculptures shaped like peacocks were already starting to melt under the heat lamps, water pooling at their bases. Champagne fountains bubbled gold liquid into crystal glasses. 200 people in formal wear who'd known me my whole life and never really seen me. They wouldn't see me tonight either. Not until it was too late. I wore the dress Grandpa bought me for my art school graduation, the one I never got to attend. Mom saw me first. Her smile was perfect, practiced. Harper, we weren't sure you'd come. Wouldn't miss it. Ryan appeared with drinks. Champagne? No thanks. I want to remember tonight clearly. The clock ticked toward midnight. I could feel the countdown. They were going to do it at the new year. The moment of celebration. Maximum witnesses. At 11:45, Dad clinked his glass. The room went quiet. Thank you all for celebrating with us tonight. As we welcome a new year, I want to address something important. A family matter that affects our legacy. Here it comes. My daughter Harper is here. Harper, could you join me, please? I walked through the crowd. People stepped aside. I saw their faces. Pity. Curiosity. Some of them already knew what was coming. Harper is about to turn 30, Dad continued. The age at which she would receive her inheritance from my father's trust. But I need to be honest with everyone here about the state of that trust. He looked sad. Practiced sadness. My father made investments that, unfortunately, didn't perform as hoped. The trust has experienced significant losses. Despite our best efforts to preserve the assets, there isn't much left. I wanted Harper to know this privately, but she's been asking questions, spreading rumors. So I'm addressing it publicly. The money is gone, not stolen, not hidden, just gone. The room stayed silent. He turned to me. I'm sorry we couldn't preserve your grandfather's legacy. I looked at him, at Mom standing beside him, at Ryan with his prepared sympathy face. Then I pulled out my phone. You're right, I said. I have been asking questions. For 2 years. I asked to see the trust documents 37 times. I asked about account statements. I asked about the $16 million that disappeared 3 months after Grandpa died. Dad's face hardened. This isn't the time. You refused every time, said the lawyer had the documents, said you'd send them later, promised transparency that never came. So I documented it. I held up my phone, showed the screen to the crowd. 43 instances of you denying me access to information I legally deserved. Every text, every email, every voicemail, all time-stamped, all saved, all backed up. Mom stepped forward. You're making a scene. You planned this scene. You planned to announce at midnight that my inheritance was gone. Make it public so I couldn't fight back without looking ungrateful. Turn 200 witnesses into your protection. I looked at the crowd. Here's what they didn't tell you. The money isn't gone. It's in offshore accounts they control. Account 4739, Royal Bank of Canada, $16 million transferred 3 months after my grandfather died. I have the statement. They showed it to me yesterday. Accidentally. Dad's voice was steel. You're delusional. I have a recording of you admitting you moved my money to an undisclosed account and refusing to document where it went. 43 minutes. Want to hear it? The room was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in someone's glass. This is slander, Mom said. It's documentation. There's a difference. I also filed an SEC whistleblower complaint this morning. Suspicious financial activity by trustees. Pattern of concealment. They'll investigate. Eventually. But that's not why I filed. I looked at my parents. I filed because I knew you'd do this tonight. Publicly announced the money was gone. Lied to 200 witnesses. And now you have. So when the SEC does investigate, they'll have your confession on record. Dated after my complaint. You just created the evidence that destroys you. Dad stepped toward me. You ungrateful? I'm grateful. Grateful Grandpa saw this coming. Grateful he left a paper trail. Grateful I found someone who'd survived what you tried to do to me. I turned to the crowd. Sarah Miller, CPA. 20 years ago, her siblings tried the same thing. Took her inheritance. Hid it. Lied about it. She spent 8 years getting it back. Every penny. Plus penalties. Plus interest. She taught me how to fight back. How to document. How to make people like this so scared of investigation that they confess before you even accuse them. Sarah was standing at the back of the room. She'd come as my +1. Nobody knew. She raised her glass. I looked at my parents. You have a choice. Transfer every dollar back to my trust by Monday morning, documented and verified, or I send everything to the IRS, the State Attorney General, and every financial journalist I can find. Your reputation, your business, your legacy, all of it gone, because you got greedy. You can't prove anything, Dad said. But his voice shook. I pulled out a folder. Inside, copies of every document, every photo, every timeline entry. I handed it to the lawyer in the crowd, the one who'd told me Dad had the documents. You said Dad had the trust papers. He said you did. One of you lied. Now you both know the truth. My grandfather didn't leave his money to them. He left it to me, and I'm taking it back. The countdown started. 10, 9, 8. I walked toward the door. 7, 6, 5. Behind me, I heard Mom's voice crack. Harper, wait. 4, 3, 2. I stepped outside. The cold air hit my face. 1. Fireworks exploded over the desert. Happy New Year. 3 months later, the IRS closed their investigation. My parents transferred every dollar back. All $28 million. Plus the interest they'd earned in those offshore accounts. Plus penalties for improper trustee conduct. They lost their business, their reputation, most of their friends. I didn't attend the foreclosure hearing on their house. I was busy opening my pottery studio, the one Grandpa promised. I haven't spoken to them since that night. Ryan tried to apologize, sent flowers, wanted to explain he didn't know how bad it was. I didn't respond. Sarah and I have coffee every week now. She's teaching me forensic accounting. Says I have a gift for finding what people try to hide. I'm thinking about starting a consulting service. Help people document family financial abuse. Teach them the panic protocol. Give them the tools I had to learn the hard way. Because here's what I learned. Family isn't owed through blood. It's earned through trust. And some tables aren't worth a seat. My grandfather knew that. That's why he left me the money in the first place. Not to make me rich, to make me free. I'm free now, and I'm never going back. If you're facing something similar, if your family has promised you something and then hidden it, if you've been asking questions that never get answered, start documenting now. Every text, every email, every conversation. Timestamp everything. Back it up somewhere they can't access. Find someone who survived what you're going through. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And you deserve to protect what's yours. Thank you for watching her Revenge Lab.